Good morning, everybody. अभी भी सब सोए हुए लग रहे हैं. Good morning. Okay, that's better. So today we are here to have a very enlightening session on a very burning topic, pertinent to all of us, I suppose. We have CA Jagdish Punjabi ji, who will be dealing with taxation impact on redevelopment of cooperative housing society, including monthly hardship allowance. So we all know that change is the only constant, and Mumbai is undergoing with change on various levels. And dealing with this change is also very important for us as professionals, and CA Punjabi will be enlightening us on that. So before that, let us all stand for the ICI motto song and the national anthem.
भारत माता की जय.
Thank you. Please be seated. I request everybody to please keep your mobile phones on silent. And there is a very important announcement for JB Nagar Study Circle members. The upcoming regional conference of the ICI-WRC is on the 23rd and 24th of August, Friday and Saturday, at Geo Convention Center. And for JB Nagar Study Circle, we have announced a 500 rupees discount. With the whatever is the fee structure of the WRC, we are giving a 500 rupees discount. So please register. I think messages have been already circulated. Please fill up the form and register yourself. Now to start the session, I request CA Ankush to please come and give a brief introduction of our speaker.
A very good morning to everyone. CA Jagdish P. Punjabi, he is a practicing chartered accountant. He is practicing mainly in the area of direct taxation since 1989. He was a rank holder in Inter CA. He practices in his individual name. He has been a lecturer in accountancy and taxation for a period of over 17 years in Ghanshyamdas Saraf College of Commerce and Economics and also in St. Andrews College of Commerce and Economics. He is a regular speaker on various topics all over the world, all over India. He's a regular speaker and he's a guest faculty at the training programs conducted by National Academy of Direct Taxes Nagpur and also by Direct Tax Regional Training Institute Mumbai. Friends, with this small introduction, I request everyone to please welcome him with a huge round of applause. And before handing him the mic, I would request to present him with a memento. I would request CA Ashwin Chopra ji and CA Khushbu Shah to please join.
Good morning. The conveners, seniors, and friends. The topic, as has been mentioned, is income tax consequences in respect of redevelopment of cooperative housing societies. So basically, we are dealing with tax consequences of a specific set of development agreements, and we are now discussing only development agreements which a cooperative housing society would enter with a builder developer. This is not a presentation on development agreements per se, though the principles of development agreement will to a great extent apply, but I clarify at the outset that we are dealing with tax consequences of a development agreement entered into by a cooperative housing society with a builder developer. Now, presently, what I will be doing is first taking you through the basic concepts, and then what is the view judiciary is presently holding, and we will also test the view being held on first principles as to whether there is a rethink which is required or not. And in order to assess the last part, it will be necessary to clarify certain basic concepts, and therefore I will begin with certain basic concepts. I am constrained by the time limit available. It's 9:08 right now, and I'm told to stop by 10:30. Is it right? 10:30 or before that? 10:45. Okay, fine. So you will have certain slides where I'll go fast. You will have several slides which I will skip. Because this is a comprehensive presentation, and therefore, given, we have to respect the time available, and therefore, whatever time has been allotted, I will not exceed anything. I will keep 15 minutes for Q&A. Every Q&A will be taken, don't worry about that. But I will not exceed the time allotted. Okay, now with this general background, let's begin. Let's begin with the fundamentals. When does income get taxed under the head capital gain? What do I need for taxing income under the head capital gains? Sorry, I need transfer. What else do I need? Transfer consideration. Sorry? During the financial year. Okay. Transfer during the financial year. There should be a transfer. Transfer should be during the financial year. Transfer should be for a consideration. Anything else I need? Capital asset. Most important. Okay. So I need a capital asset. I must transfer that capital asset. The result of the transfer must be some gain which must accrue arise to me, which will be captured under the head capital gain. And there has to be full value of consideration, right? Then prior to 1423, I also required cost of acquisition. Because there was no cost, computation mechanism phase, annual BC Shetty, etc. Computation mechanism phase, charge phase. But then I have the amendment carried out in 2023, where I'm told that no, any right whereof you cannot envisage a cost, we are going to treat the cost to be nil. So today you cannot tell me, yes, sir, no cost, no gain. Okay. Take it. Now tell me something. I must have a capital asset, मान लिया. Capital asset किसका होना चाहिए? मेरा या आपका? मेरा capital gain compute कर रहे हो, तो capital asset किसका चाहिए? आपका या मेरा? Sorry? Transfer. Right? Therefore, if the asset is mine and the consideration is coming to you, who will get taxed? If the asset is mine, but the consideration somehow is coming to you, who will be taxed, me or you? No one. Very good. The entire country will come to you, sir. Yeah. Sorry? Owner of the asset. Okay. It should logically be the owner, because my asset is going, and because my asset is going, there has to be consideration, and that consideration, as per my instructions, is going to him for whatever reason. Okay. Unless if you want an exception to this rule, possibly somebody can tell me, there is a concept called as diversion by overriding type. Okay. You're not getting into that. Why did I raise this issue at the moment? Because society and members. I first need to address owner kaun hai? Owner kaun hai? Is society the owner or is member the owner? Whom are you going to tax? Whom are you going to tax? Are you going to tax the society? Are you going to tax the member? Point number one. Second controversy. What is the subject matter of transfer? Sorry? The land. Land society का था, society का है, society का रहेगा. Land कैसे transfer हो गया? Sorry? Development rights get transferred. Okay. तो exemption 54 में क्यों लेते हो साहब फिर आप? If your answer is correct, I am at this stage not saying whether your answer is correct or not. I'm not commenting on that, but all that I'm saying, okay, if I presume your answer to be correct, that it is development right which is being transferred, then do you get exemption or deduction, whatever you call it, under section 54, or should 54F be the appropriate provision? If his answer is correct, 54F. Anybody else taking a different view, or do I go with this proposition? What is the subject matter of transfer? जो चीज ट्रांसफर करोगे उसी का कंसिडरेशन कैपिटल गेन में आएगा, उसी का कॉस्ट आपको डिडक्शन मिलेगा, बाकी कोई चीज का कॉस्ट नहीं मिलेगा। अगर मैंने शेयर बेचे हैं तो डिवेंचर का कॉस्ट डिडक्शन नहीं मिल सकता मुझे। Understood? So let's be very clear. I mean, these 5 or 7 minutes will make us understand what I'm subsequently going to say much better. So where are we? What is the subject matter of transfer? Everybody agreeing development right? Everybody agreeing development right? Therefore, I must omit the slides on 54. We must go ahead with 54F only, right? Okay, fine. Which is the year of transfer? What is to be transferred? We said. Now, capital gain taxable in the year of transfer. Correct? Capital gain taxable in the year of transfer. And studied from a CA Inter days 45-1. Now, which is the year of transfer? Sorry? Day of development agreement. Very good. Yes. That's what his view is supported by Bombay High Court, Chhatrapati Dwarkadas Kapadia, possibly. I don't know whether he has that in mind or he's saying on first principles, but very good. Perfect. Perfect. So, therefore, if I am holding, deviating from the topic, just to clarify the concept, if I am holding land as stock in trade, then also in the year when I sign the development agreement, you will ask the builder, "Ke tax bhar do." Correct? आप P&L में credit लेके आओगे only because you signed a development agreement. Okay, fine. Again, not commenting on the correctness or otherwise of the answer. Okay. Anything else?
Here when the new member get possession of the new flat.
Year where I get possession of the new flat. Okay, sir. Let's today exchange my pen with your phone. Okay. The value of my pen admittedly is maybe a few hundreds or thousand or so. But your phone is certainly worth, it's an iPhone, and it's certainly worth several times more than this. We enter into a transaction, मैं आपको पेन दे देता हूं, लेकिन आप बोलते हो मैं फोन तो दूंगा साहब आपको, ये मेरा नया फोन आने के बाद दूंगा। तो आप 2 महीना रुक जाइए. I find the deal is attractive. I'm giving you the pen today, but I will wait. I know you will honor your commitment. No capital gain will arise, assuming pen is a capital asset in my case.
Yes. Transfer is not complete.
Why? I've given him the pen. Sale of goods access physical delivery completes the transfer. Why? What is not complete?
Exchange is not complete.
Sorry?
Exchange is not complete.
When you sell goods on credit, do you recognize sales? You don't recognize sales. When you sell goods on credit, do you recognize sales? You don't recognize it. Is this not a sale on credit? I have transferred. He has agreed that yes, he will give me. He says, "नया फोन आ जाने दो साहब मेरा, मैं दे दूंगा आपको." And I know he will give. So therefore, there has to be accrual or arisal of consideration, not necessary that consideration should actually be received. So if it's a transfer on credit basis, possible that capital gain still arises. The only condition for under 45(1) is that capital gain should be captured in the year of transfer. So what is critical for me is the year of transfer. Okay. Next. Is there any exception to 45(1)? Should I confine my talk only to 45(1) and I don't have to look here and there? To my mind, there is an exception which we will have to seriously consider, and that exception is contained in 45(5)(a). 45(5)(a) is non-obstante 45(1). So no matter what 45.1 says, 45.5a says, listen to what I am saying. Because 45.5a is non-obstante, 45.5a is a charging provision. It's not a computation provision. So I cannot take up a position that it is my option to choose between 45.1 and 45.5a. No, it's not my option. Okay. So with this background, let's now understand what is a development. Okay, what happens in a society development agreement? होता क्या है? Transaction तो समझने पहले किसने क्या दिया क्या लिया. Okay. Okay, what happens in a society development agreement? Who receives what? Who gives what? Who receives what? Who gives what? Come on.
The balance potential of the land.
Perfect.
The development.
Perfect. So you are once again coming to the proposition that development potential belongs to the society. जो society का नहीं है वो society कैसे देगी? So you are saying that society transfers development potential. Therefore, the builder developer receives development potential. Now, what is it that society receives? Computation करने के लिए I need value of what I receive, not value of what I give. Of course, value of what I give is relevant, but if I cannot find out value of what I am receiving, and that is 50 CA, I mean, we're not talking on 50 CA at the moment. Sorry? Additional area to the members is one thing which, but that society is not receiving. So now we come to a situation. See, all this is tricky. I mean, it's very difficult to finish in 1.5 hours or whatever. But so therefore, I'm clarifying the concepts. Once concepts are clear, you will go and apply it on your own. Now, he says development right diya. Kisko diya? Builder developer ko. He says flat mila member ko. So society tax kahan se bharegi? Corpus. Very good. Corpus who receives? Members. Okay. Okay. Members receive corpus.
Most of the time it is possible. Sometimes it is based to society also.
Okay, fine. Okay. So corpus received either by members, either by society. Chirag will tell me, नहीं sir, आधा कर देते हैं अपन, काय को झगड़ा करने. Possible. Right? Okay, चलो. So corpus मिला. और क्या मिला? Displacement compensation. Call it displacement compensation, call it hardship allowance, call it transit rent, call it by whatever name you want, right? So there is some monthly allowance which is received by whom? All members equally? No. Depends on the area of the flat. Depends on the area of the flat, right? Okay. So one component was what? Bigger house to the member. Second, some corpus to the member, some corpus to the society, right? Some corpus to the member, some corpus to the society. Then hardship compensation, transit rent, whatever that you call it. Anything else? Society gets a area for amenities. Society gets area for amenities, right? Which earlier the society may not be having. Okay.
Societies, office, some common
area for amenities, facilities, right? Like you can go on and on. Swimming pool milega, gymnasium milega. I mean, so amenities would cover everything.
Which would include perhaps the hall also.
Which will include?
Hall.
Yeah, everything. Yeah. Okay, fine. So common areas. Let's put it common areas. The new building will be constructed. The present building is 60-year-old. Could fall anytime. There are leakages, etc. I'll get a new building, right? I'll get a new building. I may get parkings, etc. So this is what is going and this is what is coming. Now, जो जहाँ रहा है development potential, what is that? Where does it get created from? See, there is something called as, now give me 5 minutes and then you can interact. Now there is something called as FSI. FSI is nothing but development potential of the plot of land. Initially, pre-91, there was FSI in city and there was FSI in suburbs. There was FSI in city and there was FSI in suburbs. That was the only FSI. If I take suburbs, the FSI was 1. Therefore, if I had a plot of 10,000 square feet, I could construct only 10,000 square feet. Come 1991, and development control regulations got amended. And they introduced a concept of TDR. What is TDR? It is transferable development rights. How do I get TDR? Somebody has a development rights certificate. That certificate, I as a builder developer or I as a plot owner buy that development rights certificate from him, and that much FSI I can use on my plot of land. How does this DRC get generated? Government is supposed to have hospitals in the society. Government is supposed to provide us with gardens, playgrounds, etc. Now, to provide all this, government needs land. Now, where the hospital has to be constructed, there is a plot of land belonging to you. So government must pay you money and take that plot of land from you and construct a hospital on that to give service to its citizens. But government does not have money. So what does government tell you? You give your plot of land to me free, and I will give you a certificate called as development right certificate. What do I do with that certificate? Okay, वो certificate से क्या होगा? Whatever was the development potential of that plot of land, which you are giving to the local authority free, that potential will be written on the certificate. So if you gave a plot of 5,000 square feet to government, they will issue you a certificate which will entitle you to construct 5,000 square feet on some other plot of land. That is a certificate. That is your title of ownership. I mean, a document of title for you. And I, as some other plot owner in the neighboring area, there are rules. Of course, I'm not getting into those municipal rules. Okay, you can construct to the north, you can go to the east, you cannot go to the west, etc. I'm not getting into that. I can buy the TDR certificate from you and use it on my plot if my plot is a qualifying plot. Now, we began with the example that I am owning a plot of land of 10,000 square feet. अब मेरे को इसमें 50,000 बनाने का है. So can I buy 40,000 का TDR and load it on that and construct 50,000? No. There is a cap. From 1, I can maximum come to 2. From 1, I can maximum come to 2. Therefore, 10,000 can become maximum 20,000. Okay. Out of 5,000, you have already sold 2,000 to somebody. So what you have left is 3,000. So I will buy this 3,000 from you. I can go and buy 7,000 from somebody else. Therefore, I can then construct 20,000. You will not give me your certificate free. You will charge me some money. You will charge me some money for that certificate, because ultimately what are you doing? You are recovering the cost or the market value of the land which you gave free to the government. Okay. So 10,000 will become 20,000. I as the owner of plot, there are 2 seats ahead here. If those of you standing can come and occupy. You all can take these 5 or 6 chairs over here also. Okay. I, as the owner of the plot, have a right to load TDR. Please understand. I, as the owner, have a right to load TDR. You have TDR which comes to me. Upon marriage of both, we can now construct 20,000 on my plot. Then come 2012, and you now have a concept of fungible FSI. Now, what is fungible FSI? Additional 35% government is giving you. They say, don't go to him and buy TDR, come to us, pay us premium, and we will allow you to construct 35% more. So 10 ka ho gaya 20, 20 ka further 35%, which means what? 7,000 more? So 27,000, right? Then there is something called as premium FSI. So again, they say you pay us the premium and you construct. But remember, there is a maximum cap. आप infinity तक नहीं जा सकते. There is a maximum cap, and that maximum cap is linked to the width of the road next to your plot. Okay. I'm not getting into those arithmetics, but all that I want to say is that there is a maximum cap. So me, as the owner of land, what are my rights? I have plot FSI. I have a right to load TDR. I have a right to buy fungible FSI from BMC and construct equivalent to fungible FSI. I also have a right to load premium FSI. Possible that plot FSI is not fully consumed. मेरा प्लॉट 10,000 फुट का कैपेसिटी है. मैंने जब बंगला बनाया था उस पे मुझे लगा था 5,000 फुट का बंगला तो बहुत हो गया उस जमाने में, राइट? सो मेरे प्लॉट की एफएसआई है 10,000, लेकिन मैंने कंस्ट्रक्ट किया है सिर्फ 5,000. Therefore, in my example, possible that I have even unconsumed plot FSI. I have even unconsumed plot FSI. Now, why am I trying to distinguish? क्या फर्क पड़ता है आपको? फर्क ये पड़ता है कि प्लॉट एफएसआई को कॉस्ट है, बाकी एफएसआई को कॉस्ट नहीं है. बट इज कॉस्ट नहीं है अ जनरल स्टेटमेंट? द आंसर इज नो, इट्स अ रॉन्ग स्टेटमेंट. इट्स एन इनकम्प्लीट स्टेटमेंट, इफ आई मे से. व्हाट इज कंप्लीट देन? इफ यू हैव acquired the plot after 91, then when you paid, you knew that there is a right to load TDR also, which you are getting. So in that case, you cannot say it is without cost. If you have acquired the plot after 2012, and 2012 का plot 2024 में redevelopment में नहीं जाएगा, but just clarifying the concept. So what happens if your plot is purchased after 2012? Then even that right to load fungible FSI does have cost. Allocate कैसे करने का? I'm not interested. Because Supreme Court has told me, as long as there is a cost, you have to go and allocate it. I am not interested in the difficulty which you face in allocation. That was a case where mining rights were transferred, etc. Okay. So am I clear on the concepts? Now, therefore, what is society transferring? Society is transferring the remaining development potential to the builder. There is no transfer of land. Be very clear. सोसाइटी का लैंड था, सोसाइटी का लैंड है, सोसाइटी का लैंड रहेगा बाद में भी. जिनको फ्लैट बिल्डर बेचेगा उनको सोसाइटी मेंबर बनाएगी. सो देयरफॉर इट इज नॉट दैट देयर इज ए ट्रांसफर ऑफ लैंड. दिस पॉइंट विल बिकम रेलेवेंट व्हेन वी कम टू 50C, इफ एट ऑल वी एड्रेस दैट इशू. ओके, सो am I clear on what is going out? Okay. Now, what is coming in is a bigger flat to each member. Now, I know that no matter what view I take on capital gains, I will have to also address a question as to whether 56(2)(10 applies. 56(2)(10 says that if you receive an immovable property, being land or building or both, you are definitely receiving that extra area of your flat which constitutes building. And if the stamp duty value of the flat is less than the consideration which you have paid for purchasing it, then the difference between the two will be captured under 56(2)(10. This is one small area which people at the planning stage ignore or overlook. But this is again a sensitive area. One, for the sake of completeness, one needs to address 56(2)(10 as well. I'll be touching upon it. Okay, fine. So the commercials. Yeah, we discussed this. कि सोसाइटी क्या ट्रांसफर करता है? बैलेंस पोटेंशियल. सोसाइटी को क्या मिलता है? New building constructed, corpus, further corpus, better amenities, bigger society office, etc. What does the member get? Member gets a bigger flat. Member gets a bigger flat. Member gets rent for alternate accommodation while existing building stands demolished and new building is being constructed. Member gets compensation for hardship, and these two can be different also. See, some builder may tell you, I'm giving you rent so that you can stay. But because I'm now going to go away, there is going to be some hardship, some inconvenience to me and my family members. So to compensate for that hardship, some members may give both. I mean, some builders may give you rent also, and they may give you alternate accommodation, hardship compensation also. Member agrees to the society granting balance potential. Society के meeting में I will not vote against the resolution, right? That is also what I am agreeing to. Member agrees to share the common area, the compound of the building, which earlier 5 of us were sharing. Now 15 of us will share the compound of the building, right? So I agree to compromise on that. The lift of the building, earlier 5 people were using it. 5 families were using it. After reconstruction, there will be 15 families in the building. Therefore, I agree that yes, the lift will be used by 15 families instead of 5 families. What happens to the developer? Developer at his cost is going to construct the building. He will demolish the existing building. He will construct the new building. He will pay the premiums. He will acquire TDR. He will give all these amounts which we discussed to the society, to the member, etc. And what will he get? What will he get? He will still get certain additional areas which he can sell in the market and keep the money for himself, because all this he has to recover. He's not in charity, right? So this is what it is. Now, who is the owner? Was our one question. We said capital asset. We said capital asset, gain to be charged to tax in the hands of the person owning the capital asset, and only an owner would transfer. If I'm not an owner of an asset, I cannot transfer that asset. I cannot agree with you that I'll give you this laptop because it doesn't belong to me. Okay. Now, very recently, a question arose before the Bombay High Court. In several cases, they bunched up everything and they decided the issue. The issue was that there is an agreement which every member enters with the builder developer, which commonly is called as PAAA, right? Which the full form of which would be Permanent Alternate Accommodation Agreement. So I'm giving this house, I'm moving out of this house. I don't know whether giving or not. I'm moving out of this house and you will give me permanent alternate accommodation. For that, we enter into an agreement. Now that agreement was being done on a stamp paper of 500 rupees. The stamp authorities took a view that no, you are receiving. What are you receiving? You as a member are receiving new building. Therefore, at the construction cost, I am going to value it, right? And there was certain mechanics that for the additional area also which you are getting, because if your flat is 100, you are not going to get 100. You're going to get 115, 120, some greater percentage you get. The lesser that incremental percentage is, the greater is the profit of the builder. जितना आप ज्यादा लोगे, because development potential constant है, जो मूव होगा यहां से, अब उसमें से जितना आप अपने पास रखोगे उतना मेरे पास कम आएगा. Correct? So the issue before the Bombay High Court was whether this permanent alternate accommodation requires to be stamped in the manner being proposed by the stamp valuation authorities. In the case of Aditya Raj Builders, in several writ petitions, I'm not here to give a lecture on stamp duty, but whatever is relevant for my understanding of the tax concepts, I picked up from the decision, because ultimately this is the Bombay High Court explaining me its understanding of the development agreement. So unless there is something which is contrary, and Supreme Court tells me something contrary, I would say this understanding is binding on the authorities in the jurisdiction of the court. Now, High Court says that development agreement follows a particular pattern. And what is it? They say it has two parts. One part is construction of new homes for existing society members or occupants. We know that. The second part is construction of what is called as pre-sale units, which the developer can put up for sale in the open market. Sometimes, but not always, sometimes, but not always, individual society members also sign a DA. Society may alone sign, office bearer sign karenge on behalf of the society, or maybe every member may also sign. Equally, there are many cases where the society executes DA, but individual members do not. Those individual members are still members of the society, and society acts on their behalf. Underline the word acts on their behalf. तो यहां से जो आंसर आया था, society is the owner. I do not know whether High Court का understanding right है, आपका है. I will choose to go by the High Court. Okay. Now, so therefore, one observation. I'll come. Then, even before this redevelopment business began, in the context of a normal development agreement, we have Bombay Tribunal telling us that development agreement is some sort of a business agreement. It basically postulates coming together of two parties. Landowner के पास land है, उसके पास बिल्डिंग बनाने के लिए न पैसा है, न wherewithal है, न वो skill है. बिल्डर के पास कंस्ट्रक्शन का पैसा है, wherewithal है, वो skill है, but he does not have land. Therefore, the two are coming together for development, and that is what a development agreement, Bombay Tribunal tells me, is a business agreement. Fine, understood. Then the matter in the context of Consumer Protection Act went to the Supreme Court in the case of Fakir Chand Gulati. Here what happened is landlord took the builder developer to the consumer court saying that he is deficient in service. वो मेरे को सर्विस दे रहा है, उसने सर्विस बराबर नहीं दिया है. Therefore, I want to, enforce my rights against him, but he went through the route of a Consumer Protection Act. In that context, you have Supreme Court in Fakir Chand Gulati explaining what is a development agreement. And they describe that landowner provides land, builder puts the construction, builder landowner के flats landowner को दे देता है, बाकी के वो खुद बेचता है. Last sentence important for you. Such an agreement is not a joint venture. In the legal sense, it is a contract for services. Now, the minute this sentence is picked up by GST authorities, they may. Okay. Then, appropriate authority tha ek zamane mein. Most of you are seniors here. I can feel very few who would have come into practice post appropriate authority regime. In the days of appropriate authority always took a view that development agreement is nothing but an agreement for sale. Therefore, aapko mera consent chahiye. That was the view of the appropriate authority. Calcutta High Court in some different contexts has said, no, these are business agreements. Okay. So now I come to another Supreme Court in Sushil Kumar Agarwal in the context of specific relief. Some builder developer went to the court saying, ask this landowner to honor the development agreement. Normal understanding why people enter into development agreement is that under development agreement, builder does not get any rights. See, वरना आप stamp duty दो बार क्यों भरोगे? आज एक बार DA पे 6% लगता है, फिर जब आप conveyance ultimately करते हो तो फिर से 6% लगता है. I presume there are no under construction sale of flats. So therefore, there is stamp duty twice, but still everybody does a DA. Why does one do a DA? The normal understanding is that under DA, the builder acts for and on my behalf. And therefore, he does not get right in the property till he performs. जब वो परफॉर्म कर लेगा, किसी ने बोला था कि फ्लैट मिलेंगे तब ट्रांसफर होता है, जब वो बिल्डिंग खड़ी कर देगा नहीं तब मैं उसको कन्वेंस साइन करके दूंगा. आई एम नाउ डिविएटिंग फ्रॉम दैट, I mean, society concept, just to explain the principle. Now, in that context, Supreme Court tells us the expression DA has not been defined statutorily. We know that. In a sense, it is a catch-all nomenclature used to describe wide range of agreements which an owner of the property may enter into for development of immovable property. Okay, then they describe 5 types of development agreements. They describe 5 types of development agreements. I'm not getting into all this. They say, except for the first category, where the landowner himself appoints somebody to have the building constructed, it's a construction contract. But in all other categories, developer may have acquired a valuable right. May have acquired a valuable right. Now, if he has acquired a valuable right, have I not given up a valuable right? If there was a right and you have acquired it from me, if you have acquired, I have given it. If I have given it, is it not a transfer? Okay. The terms of the agreement are crucial in determining whether any interest has been created in land or in the rights in land. So therefore, they are qualifying the general statement by saying terms of the agreement are crucial. Okay. Then I'm skipping this slide. Okay. Now look at the highlighted words on the board. An essential incident of ownership of land is the right to exploit development potential, to construct and to deal with the constructed area. This is an essential incident of ownership. In some situation, an owner may part with such rights. This, in essence, is parting of incident of ownership of immovable property. This, in essence, is parting of ownership of immovable property, right? Now, before this decision in 2019, all along we had a celebrated decision of Bombay High Court in Cheda Housing, where we were told that a mere agreement for development which creates no interest in the land will not be specifically enforced. So based on this understanding, every landowner always said, मुझे तो DA करने का साहब, मुझे conveyance नहीं देने का है. Why? Because of this understanding. Now probably the lawyers will have to take a rethink and decide in the light of the decision of Supreme Court in Sushil Kumar Agarwal. Now let's very quickly look at the DC regulations, though most of it I have explained you in the first 10-15 minutes which I took, because most of it I have cleared the concept. So now I'll be able to, like, you know, having laid the foundation, one can go a bit faster. Now, what is TDR? The regulations which create TDR tell me the development potential of the plot of land may be separated from the land itself and may be made available to the owner of the land in the form of transferable development right. Remember the example I gave you? आपने जाके म्युनिसिपैलिटी को अपना प्लॉट दे दिया, उसने आपको 5000 फुट का सर्टिफिकेट दिया. अब क्या किया म्युनिसिपैलिटी ने? It separated the development potential of that plot from the plot. लैंड वही है, लेकिन उसका डेवलपमेंट पोटेंशियल उसने सेपरेट कर दिया और आपको एक सर्टिफिकेट दे दिया. अभी आप जाके उसको ट्रांसफर करो कहीं पे भी, दैट इज ट्रांसफरेबल डेवलपमेंट राइट. ओके, देन यू हैव दिस अपेंडिक्स 7 which allows loading of TDR. I said no, 1 का मैक्सिमम आप 2 कर सकते हो. सो आपके पास क्या है? आपके पास अगर 10,000 फुट का प्लॉट है तो you have FSI of 10,000 which is married to that plot and cannot be separated from the plot, and you have a right to load TDR. The regulation is saying 0.8 and there is a 0.2 which was coming from slum FSI, etc. This is a 91 regulation which I have taken it directly. Therefore, today 10 can become 20. So if you are a plot owner who has acquired the plot pre-91, you had paid money for plot FSI of 10,000 and right to load TDR FSI of 10,000 accrued to you because of the amendment of the regulations. Because when you purchase the plot in 1960, 1970, आपको सपने में भी नहीं था कि ऐसा कुछ हो सकता है. Right? This is something which happened because of a legislative action. Something for which you could not envisage a cost. मैं पैसा देके ऐसा right नहीं खरीद सकता. This right emanates to me only under a development control regulation. Okay, fine. Now, how do I have to decide na, who's the owner? Society owner or member owner? Okay. What are the arguments for the proposition that it is the society who is the owner of the development potential? Because we are all agreeing, okay, what are we transferring? We are not transferring land, we are only transferring the development potential. मेरा जो डेवलपमेंट पोटेंशियल अनयूज्ड है वो मैं बिल्डर को दे रहा हूं कि भैया तू जाके बना दे और उसके बदले में मेरे को ये देना जो आपने इनिशियल स्लाइड्स में देखा. ओके. Now, how do I support that society is the owner? Number one, society is an incorporated body, right? Maharashtra Cooperative Society Act clearly says so. Conveyance is in the name of the society. Title records are in the name of the society. Bylaws of the society say that society is the owner. Society is deemed to have allotted the flat to me. आप बोलोगे अरे मैंने खरीदा था सोसाइटी कहां से ओनर हो गया. लेकिन because a society was formed, there is a fiction which operates and it is deemed that you have been allotted the flat by the society. Okay. Now, then there are various clauses in the flat sale agreement, which agreement is in the format of Maharashtra Ownership Flats Act. And also even under RERA, the agreement which you sign when you buy a flat from the builder, those clauses are suggestive of the fact that land does not belong to you. What you get is only that 2000 square feet ka flat which you are buying, nothing more. 1 foot zyada nahi, 1 foot kam nahi. Okay. Now, then you add a celebrated decision of the Supreme Court in Ramesh Himmatlal Shah, where Supreme Court said that this right of the member can be attached, though it belongs to the society. Okay. Now, what are the arguments to support that the member is the owner? Itne argument ho gaye, society is the owner. Okay. Abhi now, somebody will say, nahi, ghar to mera tha, paisa to maine diya tha. Right? तो मैं ओनर हूं. प्री इनकॉर्पोरेशन हिस्ट्री, सोसाइटी बाद में बनी, फ्लैट किसने खरीदा? मैंने. पैसा किसने दिया? मैंने. सोसाइटी ने पैसा दिया? नहीं दिया. I paid the money, I purchased the flat, I entered into an agreement. How can you today come and tell me society is the owner? Under MOFA, I can either form a society, I can form a condominium, I can form a company under the Companies Act. These are the options. Under condominium concept, everybody will tell you that you, the individual who has purchased the flat, are the owner of the flat and you have undivided interest in the flat. So at the threshold, there was an option available. सोसाइटी बनाने का या कॉन्डोमिनियम बनाने का, राइट? चॉइस वाज देयर. सोसाइटी बनाने का, कॉन्डोमिनियम बनाना. कॉन्डोमिनियम बनाया तो मैं ओनर, सोसाइटी बनाया तो सोसाइटी ओनर. ये कैसे होता है? सो दिस इज वन आर्गुमेंट टू से दैट मेंबर इज द ओनर. देन लुक एट द ऑब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ सोसाइटी फॉर्मेशन. व्हाट आर द ऑब्जेक्ट्स? टू मेंटेन द बिल्डिंग ऑफ द सोसाइटी, टू मेंटेन द कॉमन एरियाज. मेरे फ्लैट के अंदर का मेंटेनेंस सोसाइटी नहीं करने आता है. We have all come together because we are all staying in the building. There are several compounds and common areas which all of us use. Now, since all of us use, if we are 5 of us, we can talk and decide. But if there are 200 flats in a building, who is going to decide what? Therefore, we formed an organization called a cooperative housing society. What is the object? Go and look at the object. Don't just tell me that society is the owner. Now, these are arguments I'm giving you to support the contention that a member is the owner. See, जिसको 54F नहीं मिलता है और उसको 54 चाहिए, तो उसको तो ये कंटेंट करना पड़ेगा कि I am the owner, forget society. Okay. Then there is CBDT circular of 1969, which very clearly says society is not the owner. It is the member who is the legal owner for all purposes. He is writing there for all purposes and into bracket, including attachment and recovery बोलता है. Attachment recovery करते रहना दो, लेकिन for all purposes you are saying. Okay. Then section 22 का charge के लिए, income from house property के लिए, section 27 tells me the member is the owner, right? And lastly, when I sell one house in a society and I buy another house, you have always given me 54. Has anybody ever denied 54? On the ground, you were never the owner, somebody else, society is the owner. No. Okay. Not only that, there have been cases where a person purchased an office in a society building. There are, offices also in societies, no? Not necessarily everything is always a housing. You could have a mixed batch also maybe, or you could have a society of offices also. So there, department tried to disallow depreciation. On what ground? मैंने 2 करोड़ में ऑफिस दिया, वो 2 करोड़ को मैंने ब्लॉक में डाला, सीए का ऑफिस है, और उस पर डेप्रिसिएशन क्लेम किया. Department comes and tells me, no, wait, what happened? He said 2 crore consists of 2 components. There is land component and there is bidding component. On land component, you will not get depreciation. You will get depreciation only on bidding component. So what is your contention as a department? You are saying I am the owner. What is your contention as a department when you are disallowing depreciation and tribunal is confirming those orders? What are you saying? You are telling me that you, the individual who paid 2 crores, you paid price for land and you paid price for bidding. On bidding, you get depreciation under section 32. On land, you don't get depreciation under 32. तो आपने क्यों claim किया है 2 करोड़ को जाके divide कर दो 2 भाग में. Correct? So that is one more argument. That line is missing here. Okay. Now let's then get into the taxation proper. Now this is that circular of 1969. Look at serial number 3. The board are advised that under the above arrangement, and above jo describe karta, I am not reading for paucity of time. It is whatever happens in normal practice. The legal ownership in the flats can be said to vest in individual members themselves and not in the cooperative society. Hence, for all purposes, including attachment and recovery, the individual members should be regarded as legal owners of the property in question. So those of you wanting 54 route can go through this. It's a circular binding on you. Circular of 1969, not withdrawn till date. Therefore, this circular is in force unless they withdraw it at any time, and then that's their choice. Okay. Now, if you look at your sale agreement, it will always have this clause when you purchase from the builder. It will say the residual FSI in the plot or layout not consumed will belong to the promoter, which is the builder, till registration of society, whereas after registration, it shall belong to the society. If I have to argue for the department, I'll say, okay, boss, maybe you are the owner, but you are the owner of the flat. Today, what are we transferring? Let us all be very clear. What is the subject matter of transfer? We decided in first 10-15 minutes of that general concept part that it is the development potential which is moving from the society to the builder developer. Okay. Look at next clause. This will be there in all the agreements. आपके जो first agreement है ना, उसमें जाके देख लेना. The flat purchaser shall have no claim save and except in respect of the flat agreed to be sold to him. So you have no claim except, okay, then you have this Society Act. Society means whatever, I mean, right? I'm skipping this. Incorporation duties, fine, interpretation. Common area and facility, a word defined in Societies Act. What is it defining? The land on which building is constructed is a common area. It is not, I mean, area belonging to somebody, but it is common area. Now, if it is common, can I not say that I also have some interest in this? It is common. तुम्हारा भी है, मेरा भी है. I mean, many times you have a garden which is shared by two buildings. बिल्डर ने एक बिल्डिंग बनाया होता है, 10 वर्ष बाद वो दूसरी बिल्डिंग बनाता है. म्युनिसिपैलिटी को गार्डन दिखाना पड़ता है, तो वो बोलता है ये जो गार्डन है ना, ये दोनों शेयर कर देंगे आपस में. And he writes in your documents, okay, this garden will be shared or this compound will be shared. So is this not same thing? Yes, it is. Right now, let's, yeah, this was the clause I was referring to. Flat purchased by you is deemed to have been allotted. Actually, it is not allotted to you. You purchased a flat from the builder, but it is deemed to have been allotted. Okay, let's now come to the, okay. Now we are beginning tax now. This was clarification of the concepts. We are now coming to tax part. Under which head will income be chargeable? Business income, other sources, right? Capital gain. Capital gain. Very clear? Very clear, or there could be some doubt? Capital, sorry. It is a, for whom?
For the members.
What is capital asset of the society? What is the capital asset of the member? Flat. Are you transferring flat? Now, in the case of Maheshwar Prakash Society, it was society who received some consideration. Members received. They have opened up the partition so you all can sit behind. Those of you standing. Now, the right to construct additional floors on account of increase in FSI because of regulation 14 of DCR was a capital asset held by the SSC, says Bombay Tribunal in Maheshwar Prakash. Therefore, assignment of such right in favor of developer amounts to transfer of a capital asset. Amounts to transfer of a capital asset. In this particular case, ultimately tax did not come because of no cost theory. Not because there is no capital asset, not because there is no transfer. Yes, there is a capital asset. Yes, there is a transfer. But in those days, 23 में जो amendment किया government में, वो amendment नहीं था. So I said what I have transferred is a creature of the development control regulations for which no cost can be envisaged. Once there is no cost, there cannot be any capital gains because your computation mechanism fails, right? So it was on that ground. But these observations for me are relevant that the head of income has to be, in one case or in some cases, officers have tried to tax it under the head income from other sources. On the ground what? On the ground, the land continues in your balance sheet. Therefore, कहाँ transfer किया आपने? आपने कुछ transfer नहीं किया. Therefore, I am going to tax it under income from other sources. The tribunal rightly did not agree. They said nothing doing. This is capital gains. So head of income has to be capital gains. Then Bombay Tribunal once again in Ram Kumar Malhotra quoted the ratio of Chheda housing. Remember Bombay High Court Chheda housing दिखाया कि development agreement does not create interest. The tribunal quoted Chheda housing and then they said that said the court held FSI or TDR being benefit arising from land consequently must be held to be immovable property. Hence, development rights is a capital asset and transfer of development rights leads to capital gains. So on head of income, I have no doubt you have one more decision in land breeze and new Sharjah society. The extracts are there. It is true that such a right is a capital asset. Every decision recognizing that right to low TDR is distinct from land, but nevertheless, it is that right is a capital asset. And transfer of that right will give rise to gains under the head capital gains. Okay. Now, who's the owner? Is society the owner, or we saw that? Is capital gain to be charged in whose hands? Right? So we saw that society is the separate person, can hold property in its own name. The conveyance is in the name of the society. Property taxes are paid by the society till very recently, where now property tax bills are coming in your name. So that will become an argument in your favor. Okay, local authority is recognizing me as the owner, and that is why they are taking property tax from me, right? So today you have one more argument which I can now add for henceforth. Bylaws deem that the flat purchased is deemed to be allotted. So these are arguments. And Bombay High Court in Aditya, now this sentence is dangerous. Bombay High Court in Aditya Raj, ye wo jo stamp duty ka writ petitions, says it is impossible to argue that land and building are not property of the society. Okay. Now, arguments to support, then you have this Bombay, tribunal in Dakhiani, that grant of right to low TDR will accrue to the society and not to individual members. And it is the society which will be subject to capital gains. Ideally, if you are planning, see, अगर हो गया तो हो गया, जो किया वही राइट है, मैं तो वही आर्ग्यू करूंगा एंड तक कि जो मैंने किया वही राइट है, राइट? लेकिन अगर जहां आप प्लानिंग बोर्ड पे हो, तो डू थिंक of a possibility that somebody may attempt to tax society. At that stage, it should not happen that society के पास tax भरने के लिए पैसा ही नहीं है, कि कोई member नहीं देगा. And in 2 cases, department has attempted it. One was a society in Borivali, Raj Ratan Cooperative Housing Society, and the second was the society in Bandra East, MIG Cooperative Housing Society. In both these cases, department has attempted. See, what happens is, जब आप agreement करते हो ना, तो because society is the owner, society का नाम होता ही है, और registrar वो agreement upload करता है, जिसमें society का PAN होता है. तो mismatch computer generate करेगा ही, कि इसने transfer किया, return में दिखेगा नहीं. So you are bound to get a notice from INCI under section 135 capital A. You will be asked a question, you will answer it. Even if you are correct, the officer sitting in INCI will say, मेरे को क्या करना है? He will not agree with your contention. He will upload that information on Insight portal. Once he uploads it, it will go and sit in the computer of JAO of the society. And 148 as amended by the Finance Act of Finance number 2 Act of 2024, and even without that said that when your AO has information pursuant to 135A, then he can, after obtaining sanction, straight issue a reassessment notice without even following the procedure mentioned in 148 capital A. वो पहले 148A के proviso में था. After the amendment, it has been moved to 148, but this remains the position, right? So therefore, always be mindful. Okay, do what you want, but this you will have to answer. So when you are on a planning board stage, do consider this seriously. The next major question will be as to whether 50C will apply. If 50C applies, तो वो 50C का कंप्यूट करने वाला तो डेवलपमेंट एग्रीमेंट पे सबकी एरिया लेके और वैल्यू लगा देगा वहां पे, right? I mean, see, all this is going to be mind-boggling. Future is very bright for people in litigation practice. I know. They should, no? Based on what I told you, I did not know this fact, but it's logical. Now, why should they not? Then you answer and they take. Yes, sir. Bombay High Court says FAO should issue, but in real practice, it is only the JAO which is issuing against that decision of Bombay High Court in Hexaware Technologies. Department has already gone to Supreme Court. In some cases, people have received that copy. Okay, we've gone to Supreme Court. So department is not going to accept that unless Supreme Court decides. So if you have in a society money to pay the lawyers to file a writ petition, etc., you're free to litigate till such time as Supreme Court decides otherwise. I'm told the ASG is very confident that Bombay High Court will be reversed by Supreme Court. I do not know what is, I mean, that Supreme Court will decide. Anyway, now arguments to support member is the owner we have dealt with. Let's move a bit fast. This is that Hathaway Investments is the decision where company purchased office premises and the officer said the price you have paid comprises of two components, land payment depreciation nahi dunga. The tribunal says the assessee being member of the society can be considered as part owner of the land in proportion to his shareholding in the society. Right? Therefore, this is an argument to support K individual member is the owner. Okay. Fine. CBDT circular dekha humne, society, all this we saw. Okay, let's now look at some decisions. Bhaveshwar Vilas. In this case, the AO taxed the society. AO taxed the society with a sum of about 4 crore and odd in those days. And he said capital gain arises on entering into a DA with the developer. Now, what was the member to receive? Member was to receive a bigger flat. Tax kis pe aaya? Society. The CID appeal deleted the addition. On the ground, members are the real owners of the flat. Therefore, society ka addition to gaya. The matter traveled. Land and building belongs to the members and not to the society. Look at the last sentence there, CID pieces. Right? The registered DA was entered into between assessee and the developer. The AO head, since agreement entered into by society, tax is chargeable in the hands of society. AO बोला agreement किसने sign किया है? Society ने. Agreement में owner किसको बोला है? Society को. So I'm going to tax you. How am I concerned? Right? So CID appeal said real owners. Now, what did the tribunal say? Tribunal says capital gain shall always be chargeable only in the hands of person who transferred. Only in the hands of person who transferred. In the present case, this society did not transfer anything. Tribunal is saying society did not transfer anything as it did not have ownership of the flat. Owners of the flats were members of the society. CID appeal has correctly deleted the addition. So this was Bhaveshwar Vilas. Then you had Auroville Cooperative Society, where again a similar thing happened. The owners or the members of the society transferred their individual entitlement of right to load in favor of developers and were supposed to receive compensation directly. So यहाँ तो individual member ने हर एक ने अपना component transfer किया, they were to receive the compensation directly. Still the AO और उन लोगों ने individuals ने tax भर दिया, कोई dispute नहीं था उस पे. But the AO says no, I'm going to tax the society. They considered the CBDT circular which I explained you 1969 का, that the benefit of additional right to load TDR was derived and enjoyed by the members of the society and nothing accrued to the society. The tribunal says there is no merit in computing gain in the hands of society. All these are arguments which you will have to use in a case like what he said, notice has been received. Right? Okay. Now you have a Bombay High Court where the Bombay High Court in a writ petition in the case of Sharat Chandra Rumta says that prima facie, being a member of the society and there being a redevelopment agreement between the society and the builder under which certain amounts are to be paid by the builder to each of the members, and that amount has been assessed earlier as income of the society and legal proceedings are pending, it is doubtful whether such amount constitutes income of the member. So now High Court taking you to the society. So I cannot give you one answer. Many people ask, नहीं owner कौन? मेरे को क्या करने का? अरे तेरे को क्या करने का? I cannot answer. You have to decide. I can tell you pros and cons. I can give you arguments for and against. In whatever view you take, we saw two decisions of the tribunal. Now you have High Court. Now why did High Court decide like this? Because in this case, society was already assessed. See, please understand. Court decides on the facts. You cannot make a generalized statement. ये ऐसा होगा. ये ऐसा होगा जो बोलता है उससे दूर रहना. You have to read the document. You have to understand everything and then give the advice. I mean, you cannot. I mean, pick up some note of somebody, some presentation of somebody, and start applying it left, right, center. Now here, why did the court decide? The society was already taxed. The matter was in appeal, and here was a officer issuing a reassessment notice to an individual member. So High Court said, what nonsense is going on? You have already taxed the society, appeal is pending, वहां जो होगा वो होगा in law. Why are you again taxing him? So you have to understand that if a decision was rendered, in what context was it rendered? So when you get a notice, you have to select which of these match with your facts and then use them and rebut and distinguish your case from the other contrary cases. That is how you have to proceed. Okay. The contentions and reasoning of the AO, to the extent that the word property includes only tangible asset but also intangible asset, and therefore additional FSI available to SSE was a right acquired by virtue of being owner of the plot, is correct. Thus such right is definitely a capital asset. Right now, this I am reading from Bombay Tribunal in Land Breeze. Development rights have been available to the SSE as per DCR, and these are separate and distinct from the original right in land. Okay. Now we have enough. I mean, we've seen enough decisions for this. Now let's come to in which year does the transfer take place. We cleared one thing. Capital asset hai ki nahi hai. We cleared who's the owner. We saw arguments for society being the owner, and we saw arguments for member being the owner. Now let's come to year of transfer, because we have, if at all we have to pay tax, whoever, whether member or society, in which year do they pay the tax? Okay. Now, if the asset being transferred is a capital asset, the definition of transfer given into clause 47 will apply. Which are the clauses which will apply? Possibly clause 5 and clause 6. Clause 5 is what? Transaction involving possession to be taken or retained in part performance of the contract of the nature referred to in 53A of the Transfer of Property Act. Mind you, 53A has not one condition of possession. It has got 6 conditions. If any one of the 6 is not satisfied, you cannot say that 247(5) will apply. See, we always feel first Chatrabhu Dwarkadas Kapadia came and we started saying, nahi, agreement sign kiya, transfer ho gaya. Then we said, nahi, possession de diya na, ghar khali kar diya, therefore transfer ho gaya. Aisa nahi hota. The clause is referring to 53A, I mean, a transaction involving allowing of possession. So possession is necessary to be taken or retained in part performance of a contract of the nature referred to in 53A. So first it has to be a contract of the nature referred to in 53A. Only then the question of possession or possession comes. Now, what do you mean by of the nature? So यहाँ तो खाली possession लिखा है, वहां 6 आइटम है, तो सब 6 पढ़ने का कि खाली एक ही पढ़ने का? The Supreme Court says in Balbir Singh Naini's case that you have to read all the 6 conditions in 53A as if they are contained over here. So if any contract does not satisfy any one of the requirements, one out of the 6 requirements of 53A, you will say this 247(5) does not apply. Okay. Again, in I think, yeah, Seshasai Steel, 3-member bench of the Supreme Court says possession is a legal concept. It is not merely having thala chabi. I mean, possession implies that you are legally entitled to that property, right? Okay. Now, any transaction which has the effect, etc. Now look at this. This is something tricky. This came in as a result of Vodafone decision. After Vodafone decision of the Supreme Court, legislature amended the law with retrospective effect. And now it says, for the removal of doubts, it is clarified that transfer includes and shall be deemed to always include, to have always included what? Disposing or parting with an asset or any interest therein. Therefore, for the explanation to apply, I have not parted with land. What I have parted, if at all, is the interest in land, which interest was the right to load FSI or to exploit further development potential, which is legally available to me, right? Therefore, the question about year of transfer will have to be answered keeping in mind whether you have parted with the interest or not. And how do you answer this question? How do you answer this question? You answer the question by putting your facts in one of these situations. What could be the situations? Year of execution of DA. जो first answer आया था. Year in which first or the last members vacates the property. Somebody may say first member ने vacate किया, possession दे दिया. Part includes whole and all those theories, right? Somebody may say चलो first में नहीं, last member निकला ना, तब तो possession गया है developer के पास, तब transfer हो गया. Somebody may say that year in which society grants power of attorney to the builder developer is the year where the transfer happens. Someone may say, no, power of attorney देने से क्या हुआ? Municipality ने plan ही approve नहीं किया है, तो उसको क्या मिला बेचारे को? The year in which plans are approved. Next could be year in which builder pays the premium to the municipality for loading FSI on my plot. अभी तो concrete हो गया, plan भी बन गया, FSI का premium भी उसने भर दिया. So now that premium paid, that the FSI for which he has paid the premium will have to be loaded on my plot. Okay. Then year in which construction is completed, somebody said last, right? Okay. Now this TOPA amendment, that's deep. Balbir Singh Maini ko jane do. Seshasai steel, let's skip. Okay. Now in brief, Seshasai says that if you hand over possession only for the purposes of executing the development agreement, then that will not amount to possession. That is only a license to him to enter your property, and to the similar effect is the ratio of Calcutta High Court in Infinity or something. I mean, I'm forgetting the name. Where also they said in the context of development agreement कि आप आपके घर में the Calcutta High Court beautifully says, takes an example and says कि आप अपने घर का possession contractor को देते हो repair करने के लिए, will you say transfer हो गया? They have taken this example, I am not adding it. They have even taken a situation कि builder को एक बार possession दे दिया जमीन का, वो बिल्डिंग बनाएगा, एरिया हम लोग शेयर करेंगे, हो सकता है वो दादागिरी से मेरे को एरिया नहीं दे वापस. They're saying we understand it is possible because you have given him physical custody of the plot. He will construct a building, but he will not give me my area. So easy day transfer. They say he may do what he wants to do, but he will not get protection under section 53A of the Transfer of Property Act. Therefore, the sum and substance is 247(5) nahi rakhega wahan, right? Okay. Now, therefore, what? I mean, itna sab gyan de diya, answer bolo na. So the answer is, what are the options? The options is, if the development potential is transferred unconditionally, then it gets transferred when power of attorney is granted. आपका DA में अगर कोई termination clause नहीं है, कोई conditions नहीं है, आप एकदम simple drafting करते हो, आपने तो अपना rights दे दिया. So therefore, the minute you execute a power of attorney, you have transferred it and the tax will trigger. Okay. Now, please understand that merely having DA means nothing. अगर आपने DA साइन कर दिया ना अपने लैंड का, रजिस्टर भी कर दिया, the developer can do nothing unless you give him a power of attorney. That is why the decisions say that if power of attorney is not given, where is the question of transfer? And wait, mind you, what is power of attorney? What is power of attorney? When your clients give you a power of attorney to go and represent them in the tribunal, what are they saying?
Binding on me.
Sorry?
Whatever you will do is binding on me.
This is a consequence.
Representative.
Correct. What they are saying is, you go and represent me. मेरी तरफ से आप बात करो. पहले के जमाने में अपन शादी ब्याह के टाइम पे एल्डर्स को लेके जाते थे. Correct? वो एल्डर्स बात करते थे. Now the youngsters bring and they say, give us a dictum. Hey, this is my partner. Right? But so far, law में वो change नहीं आया है. Society में change आया होगा. Right? Therefore, when you give a power, I mean, when your client gives a power to you, what is your client saying? His presence is as good as my presence. His statements are as good as my presence. I mean, my statements. His commitments are my commitments. Therefore, जब builder को POA दिया, तो builder जो भी कर रहा है society में, right or wrong, you are responsible. He is only your agent, acting for and on your behalf. His actions are binding on you. Therefore, as far as municipality is concerned, it is you who are putting up the plans, etc., etc. Therefore, without, I mean, the point which I want to try and make or explain is that merely signing DA means nothing. DA coupled with power of attorney means something. But still, if legally I want to argue, I'll say, अरे वो तो मेरा agent है. उसने किया तो काय का ट्रांसफर हो गया, वो तो मैंने ही किया. Unless your power of attorney is a power which satisfies the ingredients of section 212 of the Contract Act, and therefore it's a power for consideration, and therefore you cannot. I mean, see, I mean, if it is a normal power, it dies with the death of the person. So if your client has given a power to you to represent, you can represent him as long as your client is alive. The minute your client is dead and you know, then if you have done any act, that act is not valid. In fact, whether you know or not, if the person is dead, the power comes to an end. Unless मैंने आपसे agreement किया to buy your house, and I give you money under that agreement, and for my safety, I say, no, tomorrow, if something were to happen to you, nowadays anything is happening to anybody at any point in time, I don't want to take a risk with my money, therefore give me a power that I will pay the balance sale price mentioned in the agreement. If I bring that money, then I can on your behalf complete the sale. Such a power will not expire with your expiry. You may die, but that power will remain alive because that was a power for consideration which will satisfy the ingredients of section 212 of the Contract Act. Okay. So first we saw unconditional agreement when plans are approved. Okay. Then if it is conditional upon getting plans approved, I mean sanctioned, then once plans are approved, he gets a right. If it is conditional on getting IODCC, तो जब IODCC आया उस दिन ट्रांसफर होगा. If it is agreed that development potential shall be transferred in stages or on completion of milestones, it gets transferred at that time. Therefore, what I'm trying to explain is that these are the various options which you will have to prescribe in your agreement. You have to think through and then decide what you want. If the agreement is made terminable, in case developer fails to deliver the members area, then transfer will happen only on completion. So you mentioned there, okay, I can terminate the agreement at any time by this date unless you give me give my members the bigger flat by this date. तो वो डेट आने तक तो ट्रांसफर हो ही नहीं सकता. Okay, if the agreement contemplates specific performance and is not terminable, but only provides for damages, then on termination, it may be difficult to argue that land has been transferred. Okay, now this was a case of before Bombay High Court in Bhatia premises, where the department sought to tax capital gains on transfer of additional FSI in the year of execution of DA. Officer ने बोला agreement sign किया ना, transfer हो गया. Possession was not handed over. Agreement provided that if within 6 months he does not obtain IODCC, the agreement will stand cancelled without further notice. It was also to stand terminated in the event developer obtains the certificate but does not commence construction activity. So agreement में क्या बोला था कि 6 महीने में आप IODCC नहीं लाए तो agreement terminate. आप IODCC लेके आए लेकिन construction चालू नहीं किया 6 महीने के अंदर, तो भी this agreement cancelled. Now developer could not obtain IODCC within 6 months, and therefore society passed a resolution to terminate the agreement. लेकिन वो एग्रीमेंट तो हो चुका था. एओ वो एग्रीमेंट पकड़ के बैठता है, वो एग्रीमेंट देख के वो आपको नोटिस भेजता है. आपका एग्रीमेंट 1 ईयर में होता है, आपका कैंसलेशन दूसरे साल में होता है, 2 साल बाद हो सकता है, कभी भी हो सकता है. बलबीर सिंह नैनी में बरसों बाद हुआ था. Okay, now the High Court did not find any perversity on the finding that 247(5) would be attracted if agreement had gone further. Important sentence. High Court says अगर एग्रीमेंट आगे गया होता तो 247(5) लगता, लेकिन यहां एग्रीमेंट आगे गया नहीं था. Therefore there is no question of applying 247(5). Right? The tribunal held that SSC never lost control over the property, it never handed over possession, rather the agreement stood terminated, there was no transfer of land or building, says the tribunal. The SSC had only transferred its entitlement of additional FSI to the developer for reconstruction. However, once the agreement did not survive, the benefit was not to flow from the agreement, because agreement which was supposed to transfer itself stood terminated. The tribunal concluded that in the light of the factual circumstances, there is no benefit and therefore 247(5) will not apply. Okay, now this is something on stamp duty, so I'm skipping. The entire point I want to make is, okay, let me take a minute here. Now, stamp authority, how does it value your DA? He will consider what you have paid and what you have received. Higher of the two पे वो value करेंगे. Stamp duty कौन भरता है? Builder. Correct? Builder को क्या मिला? Development potential. Development potential to what extent? To the extent of areas available for sale by the builder. जो आपको देता है वो तो उसको मिला ही नहीं. Correct? जो आपको देता है वो उसको नहीं मिला. उसको क्या मिला? जो एरियाज वो बना के बेच सकता है उसका डेवलपमेंट पोटेंशियल उसको मिला, तो उसका रेकनर वैल्यू विल बी द फर्स्ट फिगर. करेक्ट? उसका रेकनर वैल्यू विल बी द फर्स्ट फिगर. वो रेकनर वैल्यू देने के लिए ही विल नॉट टेक 100% रेट ऑफ दैट, ही विल टेक आइदर 65% और 70%. व्हाई 65-70? बिकॉज बिल्डर विद दैट राइट कैन नॉट कंस्ट्रक्ट. बिल्डर को उसके अलावा टीडीआर खरीदना पड़ता है, बिल्डर को उसके अलावा म्युनिसिपैलिटी को प्रीमियम पे करना पड़ता है. Right? Therefore, to account for all that, they say we will value it at 65% or 70%, where the balance is the cost he will incur, I mean, by way of premiums or TDR cost. And what is he paying? ये तो हो गया, उसको क्या मिला उसका value, right? Whatever he is receiving उसका value और whatever he is paying, दोनों में से जो greater होगा ना, दोनों में से जो ग्रेटर होगा उस पे स्टैंप ड्यूटी लगता है. सो स्टैंप अथॉरिटी इज गोइंग टू वर्क आउट टू फिगर्स ए एंड बी. ग्रेटर ऑफ द टू ही इज गोइंग टू टैक्स यू. आई मीन टैक्स यू मींस ही इज गोइंग टू levy stamp duty on that. Okay, now what is the other option, other component? He will compare that with what? He will compare that with what builder is paying. What is builder paying? What is builder paying? The cost of construction. The cost of construction of what? Of the additional areas being given to the members, right? Then cost of construction of the amenity spaces, society office, parking, swimming pool, whatever we said, जो society को मिलेगा. Then monetary consideration which he is paying to each of you, whether call it corpus, to the society or to you, whatever. Then अगर उसने आपको कोई deposit दिया है, तो उसका notional interest देगा वो at 6%. Then rent paid to each member, hardship compensation paid to each member. Some builders give brokerage so that you can take the new flat on rent, you'll have to pay brokerage, so they pay. So all that is going out of the pocket of builder will be added, and that will be 1 to 11 or 12, whatever it is. Uska total will be the second figure, greater of the two will be taxed. Okay. Now, okay, now does 50C apply? Now this is something which, let me give the conclusion here. Does 50C apply to transfer of or to execution of a DA by the society? The answer is yes or no. Yes or no. 50C says that it will apply if there is a transfer of a capital asset, being land or building or both. What we are transferring is neither land nor building nor both. What we are transferring is a right in land. Is it a very clear case? No way. There are enough red signals over here. First, favorable points. You have 3 tribunal decisions on development rights, development agreement directly in your favor. Voltas Limited, Shakti Insulated, Ronak Marble. You have any number of decisions that you want on the proposition that 50C does not apply to transfer of rights in land or building. Leasehold right transfer kiya nahi lagega. Bombay, you have several decisions starting with Atul Puranik, etc. Then what do you want? Tenancy right transfer kiya nahi lagega. आपने फ्लैट बुक किया है, 3 बरस बाद वो फ्लैट बेचने जा रहे हो, फ्लैट बना नहीं है अभी तक, अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन ही है, 50C लगेगा कि नहीं लगेगा? They are saying नहीं, on booking rights no 50C. So you have any number of decisions. Therefore the proposition is 50C applies only if there is a transfer of land or building or both. In my case, there is no transfer of land or building or both. Therefore 50C will not apply. I will rely not on other decisions. I will select these 3. But please be mindful of the fact that Bombay Tribunal in 4 cases has decided against the SSC. These 3 decisions which have decided in favor of the SSC have not considered these 4 decisions. They are rendered independently. And SSC in Chiranjeev Lal Khanna's case has preferred an appeal to the Bombay High Court. So if Bombay High Court decides against the SSC in that appeal, everything will go for a spin. Rajasthan High Court in Ramji Lal Meena's case, for reasons given which I do not agree with at all, has said that 50C will apply to transfer of rights. I may agree with the conclusion, but I do not agree with the reasons. What is the reason Rajasthan High Court says? It says if we agree to this, then all cases or majority of cases will be out of 50C. Let it be. You are not making the law, you are interpreting the law. If that be the interpretation, let Parliament go and change the law. I mean, nothing stops them. So I said, I may agree with the conclusion, or I may not agree with the conclusion, but reasoning I am certainly unable to comprehend. But at the same time, you have Karnataka High Court in V.S. Chandrasekhar's case, where they say, I am looking at the clear plain language, 50C does not. So you have Rajasthan against, you have Karnataka in your favor. You have Supreme Court in vegetable products telling you that if you have 2 decisions, one in favor, one in against, you follow whatever is in your favor. Okay. But that will apply as long as you do not have a Bombay High Court. Bombay High Court has given enough indications that it has not decided the matter. In some cases, it has refused to quash reassessment proceedings on the ground that 50C does not apply to my case. It said, we have never decided this. So how do you conclude that 50C does not apply? So don't ask us to quash that notice. Okay, fine. Now, is the member transferring a residential house? Why is this relevant? For the purpose of 54F. Because if you're transferring a residential house, so 54 aega. If what you're transferring is not a residential house, so 54F aega. And 54 has got much stricter conditions, because if you already own more than one residential house, then 54F will not apply to you. Having transferred, if within 1 year you purchase or etc., then again 54F, the conditions in the proviso are quite stringent as compared to the conditions of 54. Okay. Fine. Now, as of today, the understanding in the department is all 54 दे रहे. So देता तब तक ले लो, right? But when you're planning, be mindful कि possible है 54 से this claim may have to shift to 54F. So whatever needs to be done, whatever safeguards need to be taken, please take those safeguards. Okay. Now, 54F and 54 both have that. Okay, earlier we used to take the argument that what I have transferred is a right. That right has got no cost and therefore no capital gain. But that theory now will not work. If you want to go by that theory, you say that the transfer happened before 1423, and in that regime, that argument was available. Therefore, if you shift the date of transfer to a date prior to 1423, then that argument is available. Okay, now I come to the last 5 or 10 minutes. 10:45 you had told me, right? So I have 6 minutes, yeah. Okay. Now, the compensation which you receive for alternate accommodation, is that a capital receipt or is that a revenue receipt? If it's a revenue receipt, I mean, even if it's a capital receipt, does it go under capital gains? If it's a revenue receipt, under which head does it go? You see, what is taxed under capital gains is also a capital receipt, but because that is on account of a transfer of a capital asset, we capture it and tax it as capital gains. So what you receive as, call it transit rent, call it hardship compensation, call it rent for alternate accommodation, there are 3 options available. Number 1, I'm going a bit fast. You have number 1 is, this is a capital receipt not chargeable to tax. This is a capital receipt not chargeable to tax. You have any number of decisions of the tribunal supporting this proposition. As of today, a single judge of Bombay High Court in a non-tax case has decided the issue and has said in Sarfaraz Furniture Wala's case that rent for alternate accommodation is a capital receipt not chargeable to tax. He even went to the extent of saying 194I does not apply. Then he says that because the receipt is not taxable, there is no question of TDS. I will never advise on the last part. I will never advise on the last part. But you have the blessings of the single judge of Bombay High Court for the proposition that rent for alternate accommodation, compensation for hardship is a capital receipt not chargeable to tax. Somebody may say ये single judge है, ये non-tax bench है, लेकिन Bombay High Court है. Okay, होगा, I mean single judge है, मैं क्या करूँ उसको? Non-tax case है, non-tax judge ने decide किया, लेकिन judge ने decide किया, मैंने नहीं किया है उसको. Right? Now, what is the other option? The other option is okay, this is a revenue receipt. I think Kushal Bangia or some such case, Bombay Tribunal said this is income from other sources और उसके सामने rent paid में deduction देता हूं. तो मतलब अगर मेरे पास दूसरा घर है, मैंने रेंट पे नहीं किया, तो आप मुझे डिडक्शन नहीं दोगे, लेकिन टैक्स तो करोगे अदर सोर्सेज में. Absolutely incorrect. I mean, I would feel if he would have stopped at taxing, I can understand, but granting a deduction, out of question. Because 57(3) says expenditure incurred for the purpose of earning only is allowed. It is not like you are 37. So I never pay rent to earn rent. These are two separate things. You cannot give me one against the other. And anyway, I don't agree with the proposition that this is a revenue receipt under the head income from other sources. Either you go by what the tribunals have said, it is a capital receipt supported by the single judge of the Bombay High Court in Sarfaraz Furniture Wala's case, or equally possible, I would have taken that view all these years without Bombay High Court, that this is nothing but part of full value of consideration. आपको क्यों मिला ये? ट्रांसफर किया इसीलिए मिला ना. अगर ट्रांसफर नहीं किया होता तो ये मिलता क्या? नहीं. Therefore, is it not inextricably connected with the transfer? Yes. Then what makes you say this is not part of full value of consideration? Anyway, I mean, that is my view, and obviously my view is wrong because the tribunal is correct. They are more knowledgeable, they are wiser than what I am, and the High Court is obviously superior. So this is as far as this goes, right? Now, okay, what happens to the corpus, etc.? Okay, now please be careful. I mean, all these decisions where they have said capital receipt, amount reasonable था. कल ऐसे मत करना कि पूरा कॉर्पस हम लोग मेंबर में ले देते हैं as hardship compensation. Then nobody is going to leave you. See, some people have done that. Once those cases come up, we will come to know what is the outcome. So what people do is they overstretch it, and once you overstretch it, the rubber band breaks. As long as there is elasticity in it, you can stretch it. So don't do things beyond a certain limit. Okay, now taxability of corpus. Obviously, if there is a transfer, the corpus will be taxable. The only difference is, okay, the corpus will be taxable. The question is in whose hands? Now, see, if you take everything in the hands of members and members pay the tax, you will argue on the lines of arguments before Bombay High Court in Rajaratan and in MIG. Okay, members have already paid their tax. Now, why are you taxing the society? If you take half or some proportion, something society takes, something the member takes, then make sure that the society pays tax at least on the part it has received. So then again you will say, how am I different from Rajaratan and MIG? जो कुछ मिला सब कुछ रिटर्न में है, एक X के रिटर्न में है, एक Y के रिटर्न में है, लेकिन एग्रीगेट तो है ना आपके सामने, right? Now, is this a correct thing? See, in both Rajaratan as well as MIG, first came Rajaratan, and it was argued that every member has paid tax. So what are you taxing? And if you go to Rajaratan, society received some 2 lakh or some stupid amount, and the amount which was proposed to be added was mind-boggling. So naturally, when such facts come before the judges, it hits them. ये कर क्या रहा है? Right? So the judge said nothing doing. Everybody has paid. SLP against Rajaratan has been dismissed. SLP of the department against Rajaratan has been dismissed. From MIG, again same thing happened. उसने 50C का figure उठाया. AO ने agreement register हुआ. Just as he's saying that information got picked up in those olden days, वो 148 में उसको information आया, उसने reassess किया, जो भी किया, right? Before the High Court, it was argued that Rajaratan and I are the same, and my members have also paid the tax, right? Go and check it. So the court followed Rajaratan and decided. Now, please be mindful of the fact that these two decisions are there. But there is also a Supreme Court decision in some Achaya or something, Achaya, which says that just because a wrong person has paid tax does not mean right person can escape taxation. Okay. So if you being my friend have overpaid your taxes, I cannot say कि उसने भर दिया ना, आपको tax मिल गया ना. So both these decisions have not considered. I should not have said this because I'm being recorded. I realize it now. Okay. Am I clear on this? Okay, fine. Now let's, ये Rajaratan. Yeah, MIG, and then you have this. Yeah, it's actually only 218 idea 239. Okay. Now, will 45(5)(a) apply? Will 45(5)(a) apply? What does 45(5)(a) do? It says that forget 45(1), forget 45(1). If you are an individual or HUF who has entered into an agreement with a developer to develop a project, and that agreement is registered, then and it is an area sharing agreement, which society redevelopment is an area sharing agreement, then we will not tax you in the year of transfer. We will, they're not saying we will not tax you in the year of transfer. They're saying capital gain will be chargeable in the year in which completion certificate is received. So मेरा OC आने तक तो मेरे को टेंशन नहीं if 45(5)(a) applies. What is the downside of 45(5)(a)? The downside of 45(5)(a) is that the stamp duty value of what you are receiving is full value of consideration. Right? Now, if somebody accepts this, now, I think you should go ahead. For the simple reason, okay, you are accepting I transferred bidding or land. Right? What was that? That was nothing but my house. Right? Now I have transferred this, I've got a greater area. Whatever the value you take as full value of consideration, the same got invested in the new house. So subject to that 10 crore limit, जो इधर suburb में अपने को नहीं नड़ेगा, I mean, or unless you have like 2 floors, 3 floors, etc. So subject to that 10 crore limit, this will work. Right? Now, this is one option. I do not know whether workable, not workable, because if you take the view that society is the owner, then this will get demolished. You have to say individuals are owners. All of us are individuals. Now, then also, I do not know what happens in a case where society has got some members who are companies. Will you say कि उतने member को लेके जा 45(1) में, बाकी सबको तो 45(5)(a) में रहने दे? I mean, I do not know all this. I mean, as law develops, we will see. Now, should the builder deduct TDS? Last point. Last point, madam, I have exceeded 5 minutes, but kitna? It's 10:50 already. So it's not because of me, it is because. Huh? I don't know who's gain, who's lost, but I mean, I don't normally like to overstretch my lectures.
Otherwise it will be tax. Yeah, it will be tax.
No, therefore, I skip 56 to 10 also. Okay. Now, should bidder deduct TDS? Haji? What? Where? Kidhar hai? What? You rely on that and advise a builder don't deduct. Will you rely on that and advise a bidder don't deduct if bidder comes to you? Okay. Now, TDS under which section? Sorry? What? IA. IA कहाँ से आ गया? Okay. Now, if TDS is to be done, which is the section? TDS on what are we talking? TDS on corpus? TDS, are we talking of TDS on corpus? No. What are we talking of? I am not answering TDS on corpus. I am right now onwards beginning with TDS only on hardship compensation or alternate accommodation rate. TDS on that, if at all, is possible only under 194 IC. 194 IC. 194 IC applies only if I have entered into an agreement referred to in subsection 5A of 45. 194 IC applies to a builder developer if he has entered into an agreement referred to in 45 5A. Clear? Go to 45 5A and 45(5)(a) begin with non-obstante, says it applies only to an individual or HUF who transfers land or building or both under a specified agreement. Right? That specified agreement is defined in explanation small Roman 2 of 45(5)(a) to mean specified agreement means a registered agreement in which person owning land or building or both agrees to allow another person, that is a builder developer, to develop a real estate project on such land or building in consideration of a share being land or building or both in such project, whether with or without payment of consideration in money. Therefore, basically net सीधी भाषा में there should be a registered agreement. There should be a registered agreement. It should be an area sharing agreement. Some area the owner must get. Maybe he gets only 500 feet and 95 crore of rupees. That will still qualify as a specified agreement subject to GAR. Whatever happens in GAR happens. Okay. Now, 45(5)(a) applies to individual and HUF. But when I look at the explanation defining the expression specified agreement, it refers to a person. It does not refer to an individual. Therefore, when I read 194 IC and it tells me deduct 10% from the monetary payment, it's not a small amount, it's 10%. तो कल आपका जितना भी alternate accommodation का rent है 10% से कम हो जाएगा. वो हो जाएगा, that is also okay. That TDS will get reflected in your return. Then now we'll start full flood of litigation. Taxable, not taxable. It will all start now. Okay. Now let's look at this. Therefore, what is the option to me? The entire interpretation is revolving around
5A and
agreement referred to in 45(5)(a). When 194 IC is referring to agreement referred to in 5A, should I go and read only explanation or should I also read 45(5)(a) के ये तो individual HUF को apply होता है? This exactly is the question. There is a concept called as legislation by reference and there is a concept called as legislation by incorporation. That, according to me, we need not get into all those concepts, but we are directly covered by a decision of Supreme Court in Onkaral Nandal versus State of Rajasthan. अब यहाँ क्या हुआ? There was a Rajasthan state sales tax law. It referred to subsection 2 of section 4 of central sales tax law. उस जमाने में, for those of you who are younger generations, before GST we had state law and we had a central law. So the state law referred to section 4 subsection 2 of the central law, and that central law in section 4 says subject to section 3. Therefore, department's contention was that you can't go to subsection 2 of section 4. You have to also look at subject to section 3, and once you look at subject to section 3, your case is gone. The matter traveled to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said when the state law is referring to subsection 2 of section 4, we will presume that subsection 2 of 4 is written in paper and pen over here, and therefore we are going to read only that much. हम आगे पीछे कुछ पढ़ने वाले नहीं हैं. हम वो 4(2) क्यों आया था, क्या background है, we are not interested in all that. State law is referring to subsection 2 or section 4. Therefore, I will go there and I will read only that. This decision squarely applies. 194 IC is referring to a agreement referred to in 45(5)(a). Who told you to go and read the opening words of 45(5)(a)? It applies only to an individual HUF. Look at the agreement. I mean, look at the language of the explanation defining the expression specified agreement. It talks of any person. It talks of any person. Therefore, 194 IC applies. Therefore, 194 IC applies. That's my view. If somebody were to come to me, I'll say, yes, you go ahead and deduct TDS. Right? Now, sir, नहीं किया, अभी क्या करने का? करना चाहिए, आज की बात करेंगे. नहीं किया, अभी क्या करने का? तो अभी क्या करने का? तो rely on surplus furniture वाला. Somebody will tell you, boss, ये तो 194 I का डिसीजन है. 194 IC की बात कर रहा हूं मैं. How can you apply case law 194 I for 194 IC? ठीक है. Bombay Tribunal in Mthly Parekh was dealing with a case of 194 I. Allegation of TDS officer कि you have paid alternate accommodation rent. आपने TDS 194 I में काटना चाहिए था, आपने नहीं काटा है, you are an assessee in default. Matter traveled. CIT appeal gave relief. Department came to the tribunal. When department came to the tribunal considered surplus furniture wala and says does not require deduction. Okay. Then came assessment year 18, 19, 19, 20. Same SSE, same survey. Right. The officer now says, no, you should have deducted under 194 IC. The CIT appeal decides against the SSE. SSE travels to the tribunal. Mind you, earlier order, it was 194 I. Same SSE's appeal 194 IC. SSE bola, what have I done and all that. The tribunal, okay, what does SSE talk of? SSE says consideration should be paid under 45(5)(a) towards transfer of capital asset. Alternate accommodation charges are not paid for transfer of capital asset. Okay, what did that explanation say? Consideration for transfer. See, this is not consideration for transfer, right? I'm not commenting on correctness or wrongness of the argument. I'm only saying what was argued before the tribunal. The payments are not consideration received within the meaning of 45, and therefore the same is capital receipt, not chargeable to tax. This has been held by Bombay High Court in surplus furniture. Tenant who is a recipient is not the owner. Therefore, where is the question? That was a case where he paid two tenants. Okay. Department contended, can look at 194 IC, 45(5)(a) pado. Any payment done under specified agreement will be captured, was department's argument. The tribunal decided in favor of the SSE. They said that payment which is subject matter of TDS should be in consideration or share in land or bidding or both. This is not in consideration or share in land or bidding or both, and therefore does not require TDS. Matter decided in favor of SSE 194 IC. Direct Bombay Tribunal. Therefore, ho gaya, follow this. If you even now ask me, कि अभी क्या करने का, अभी आपने ही वही दिखाया, I will still say go and deduct. Sorry. So
we did not have any right in the land or a building.
No, that was not the point. Surplus furniture wala was the question whether this is capital receipt or revenue receipt, and the argument was, since it is a capital receipt, there is no question of TDS under 194I. So you can tell me that is an obiter. That is why I repeated 2 or 3 times. Number one, कि ये single judge है. Number two, ये tax bench नहीं है. But still Bombay High Court. I know. I said I am still taking a view that you required.
But once 194 IC will be there, then whole litigation will start.
Obviously. Okay, I'll stop with my presentation. Now, whatever other questions, if any, I'll take, as long as they permit me. Otherwise, I'm here. Thank you.
The 56 to 10.
No, time will not permit. I mean, there are so many things I have skipped. Bola.
You said that the view taken is in case of cooperating society.
Excuse me, people, please
Please maintain the decorum and please sit.
That the owner of the flat is the owner, and therefore what is being transferred.
Repeat the question,
is
right,
the
sir?
member. Correct?
I did not say that.
Here, in the presentation, somewhere this game.
No, it did not.
So,
Presentation only gave you arguments for the proposition. It did not conclude.
I correct myself. I stand corrected. So one of the argument was that the owner of the flat is the owner, then he's transferring what is transferring. It is not the society.
Correct.
But now you look at the circular 79A, which says.
Which circular?
The circular 79A for the redevelopment of the bar.
Okay, understood, got it. Yeah,
Which
I-
says that if the 50-60% of the members agree, then the others cannot argue that they don't want. Which means the owner is the society, not the member. I being owner of the flat, I am not having exclusive right to decide what to do and what not to do. So technically the power shifts to the society, not in my hand. Correct? So this is one of the arguments in favor of saying that the owner is society, not a member.
So what? So what do you want?
So section 54F may apply, not 54.
That I said.
That's what I
Okay.
that is point number one. Point number two.
No, one second.
Yeah.
Then how will you get 54F? Then I will tax you under other sources. I will tax you under other sources.
That is also
That-
possible. That is also possible. So one more. In the recent High Court judgment, that,
Mthly has come, so I have to stop first.
that the decision is taken on behalf of members. So members are the.
Where is this written?
effective-
One second. Where is this written?
So the High Court judgment which you recently.
Okay, the Aditya Raj. Oh, okay. Aditya.
I didn't forget the names.
Then
I
forget,
focus on concepts. So basically that was the argument. So how is this different in case of companies? So if Reliance is taking a decision and doing business, it is on behalf of shareholders. My shareholders are not taxed for the income earned by Reliance.
What? So what?
This power is used by.
So what? What do you want? What is the point that you're trying to derive?
You, in case of shareholders of companies, they start taking this decision.
It cannot. It cannot. There is a word of a difference between the two. Go and look at the object clause of Reliance Industries. Go and look at the object clause of the society. Tomorrow you look at the object clause of the trustee and tell me something else.
Sir, I think,
Enough?
yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mahendra bhai.
Sir has dealt very deeply into all the different concepts.